Alright, hello everyone, my name is Disc, and in this video we have a level 10 Stonevault, and for the week's affix we are Voidbound. If you're new to my channel, thanks for tuning in. This is mainly for Mythic Plus reviews, where I do my best to kind of give insight into why I'm doing something and my approach to min-maxing different spells. I think these videos do a lot to teach discipline, but I am available on medify.gg if you're interested in private lessons. I think a one-on-one environment is always a little bit better for learning. I also have a super thanks line open below this video for tips, and if you're interested in any of my UI elements, I do provide them for all of my students through Medify. And also I have opened up memberships to this channel. There should be a little join button below this video, and all of my UI elements are available on a members only bulletin board for anyone who joins, and that'll be a great way to support the channel. I would really appreciate it. So before we get going here, I do want to splash talents and talk about a couple of things that really impact this week in this dungeon, and we're mainly focusing on hero talents. So I wanted to highlight Devour Matter. This is increased damage from executes on shields. This is really great for Voidbound. They are sub 20%, so you can always get an execute reset there, and it's a shield. And then also we have the third boss, which has shields. So really great place to min-max our executes. And then I play Depth of Shadows versus Void Wraith. I think this is the right way to go, especially on a week like this where we're guaranteed all of these extra executes. I just think it's the right way to go, but one way or another, the comparison here, Void Wraith incentivizes you to attack high health enemies. Depth of Shadows is incentivizing you to attack low health enemies. And the advantage with attacking low health enemies is we have extra buttons. When we catch sub 20 mobs, our execute will reset. And then a quick honorable mention, I'm still playing Darkening Horizon. I think this is the clear way to go. By extending our rift, we are able to get 2 penance very comfortably into our rift, which empowers it through and through. So I think this is just the right way to go. And some things to watch for in my videos. I think from a viewer standpoint, you can easily watch for these things no matter what I'm talking about, but as the narrator, it's often hard for me to call everything just because, who knows what I might be talking about, and these other elements happen so quickly and so frequently, I can't really talk about all of them. But I think as the viewer, it's a lot easier, no matter what I'm talking about, to kind of watch for these things. So in this video, a couple things to watch for with my Mindbender rotation. I have slightly changed it. I've pulled my Shadow Word Death out of my Rift. So I go Mindbender Death, Rift, Penance. And I think this is probably a better play, especially if you're going for Depth of Shadows. I think my video highlighting Mindbender rotation still will last and is still very relevant. But I've pulled my Death out of my Rift window. That just kind of gives you room for one more Void Blast, which is going to be a lot more impactful on our Schism. And then another thing to watch for, if you're having struggles with discipline, there's really just one thing to remember, is so after you cast your Rift, cast a Radiance, and then everyone's going to be covered through the collapse of the Rift. And then just food for thought, before I cast a Radiance, I try and at least get 3 blasts for the extension. So I get my 3, then I Radiance. Everyone's going to be covered through the collapse, and even after the collapse, atonements will linger in party. So it's a pretty strong rotation for healing and damage to work in a late Radiance, but even an early Radiance will cover everyone through the collapse. And then in Trash Pulls, we have these mini games, and one of them is seeking mobs with our Purge the Wicked, so we can cast Penance on it and spread our dot. Another one is searching for executes. And then another one is making sure we're attacking our Schism. So these are things I can't really call in the heat of the moment as I'm narrating, but as a viewer, watch for how I'm utilizing targeting to really min-max a trash pull. So kind of reading between the lines here is we're incentivized to switch our target off of our Schism, but then we also need a method to find our Schism again for that extra 10%. And I use focus targeting. I'm not going to get too much into it here, but I have a macro for Cast Mind Blast where it sets my focus. And then I have a macro to return my target to my focus with another button. And it makes it really easy to kind of search for your Purge the Wicked. It makes it really easy to search for your Shadow Word Deaths. And then it also makes it really easy for you to return to your Schism and get that value. And then on boss fights, something to watch for, the main thing to watch for is how I'm timing my spells. So bosses in this dungeon mainly only have 1 or 2 mechanics we have to track, and it's all about how we time our spells, and then also another mini game of discipline is how we cycle our defensive. So another thing to pay attention to is not just my Mindbender and my Rift, which is group defense, but also pay attention to my Desperate Prayer and my Fade, which is personal defense. And last, before we start the video, I wanted to quickly splash the damage profile. This is something you should be analyzing as a Disc Priest because it does directly correlate to your healing. So overall, I was at 375,000 per second, which is a pretty good number. And then if we look at the split here, we have Entropic Rift followed by Mindbender in far in the lead, and that's kind of how you want to see it. So we're getting twice as many rifts on average, which is why it's first, and then Mindbender should be close in second, definitely quite in the lead over the other spells. If you're noticing your Mindbender isn't quite in this ratio, it's going to point to the fact that you might be dropping your Torment spells, Inescapable Torments. If you don't know exactly what I mean, please revisit my Mindbender rotation video, but it's such a finite window and it demands we really prioritize our Torment spells while he's active. And on baseline, we want to aim for 5, and with Depth of Shadows, we're getting so many more Torments than we would otherwise, especially this week with Voidbound. Those are executes on shields, which is why our Shadow Death is so strong in this run, but we're getting so many free executes and so many free Mindbenders. Depth of Shadows, I think, is just going to be the better play, especially for this week. Definitely worth trying. I think it's a lot of fun. And then the rest of the spells kind of just fall in place. It's mainly about the Rift and the Mindbender. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and clip over to the keep. All right, here we go. Off the top, I'm planning where my PIs are going to go. It is either the Paladin or the Shaman, not the AUG. Casting a Radiance before the key starts is always a good idea too. Get that proc. And the first thing I'm thinking here is to get a couple of dots out, find my focus target, the big golem, darker red nameplate. Couple dots, couple atonements, Mindbender. Let's see how I do it. Got my focus, paints up, drop Rhapsody, atonements, Mindbender Death, Rift Penance. Working my star early. I love this camera angle. Okay, Mindbender's over. I think there's a death here. Something you can always think about if you're watching yourself back. Is there anything I could have done to make this play different? And yes, there was. I could have played Barrier. My shield wall was down. I also could have played a Fear there. That would have stopped the cast that got off. But not the biggest loss. And that is a sequence you'll see a lot. Death, Death, Penance. It is a free 3 Torment window with Depth of Shadows. You can do it in your Mindbender window or out of your Mindbender window. You'll see that a lot in this key. Mindbender Death, Rift, Penance. Working a Radiance after the Rift. I'm going to catch those executes. Got one. There's our affix. Waiting for Shadow Word Death. 2 deaths, a free Mindbender. I pulled up my talents. Okay, we're going for the middle. I think we go middle because it spawns the boss, gets the RP out of the way. Mindbender Death, Rift, Penance. I think the Shaman here dies to bad RNG. I did cast my Radiance, but the Atonement went to his pet. It only hits 5 people and then he died. Okay, sorry, Shaman. I did cast the Radiance. And that's a very common rotation too if you play that back. Death, Death, Rift Penance. So what that does is it spawns 2 free Mindbenders, then the Rift and the Penance trigger a Torment from both of the free Mindbenders. Does that make sense? So it's like a powerful little mini ramp. If you Death, Death into your Rift, Your Rift and your Penance then will trigger Torments. So that'll be, what is that? 5 free Torments, I believe it comes out to. Yeah, I did my dot ramp. I did my atonement ramp. Mindbender Death, Rift, Penance. And my Radiance before the collapse. I'm covered. So at this point, all I'm thinking is CDR, trying to get my Mindbender back before boss. And there was my Death, Penance, getting 3 free Torments. And this boss is a little tricky, but perfectly matched for Discipline. And this is an example where we're going to get twice as many Rifts as Mindbender. The first round of damage is not as strong, so we just want to Rift. And also paying close attention to the cast bar that's Aqua on the boss. That is my cue, here it is, to Dispel. I missed, but the warrior had his own damage reductions rolling. So going into this next round of beams, this is where we want both Mindbender and Rift. And I get it out early just to make sure heals are flowing, making sure I Radiance the ally in the middle of the cluster. And everyone is covered through the Rift. But with this one, Barrier and a personal shield just to get through. So, and we just cycle that. So on this next round of beams is just Rift. Paying really close attention to the Aqua cast bar for the Dispel on tank. Rift is out. Here's the cast bar. Dispel. Working a Radiance after the Rift. And the Rift did it all. So here's the double round, Mindbender and Rift. Atonement's out. Shield Wall. Dispel. Rift Penance. And that one I also gave myself a paint up. I could have potentially just held the wall, shield wall. And wash and repeat. So here comes the weaker round of beams, just the Rift. Dot out. Dispel before the cast lands. Double executes for the win. Here's the stronger round. I think I send anyway. I did watch this through ahead of time. Mindbender, Death. Rift Penance. And that's a pretty fun rotation you can get with Depth of Shadows. Is you Mindbender, Death, Rift Penance, and you get about 10 Torments in your opener. And in this pull, we do have group-wide damage coming, noticing the nameplate timer. I don't have my 2 main spells, but I do have Rapture. So I go into my Rapture with a Radiance, making sure my shields get the Mastery buff. And we're all covered. Here's the affix. And there was a Death Penance. The Rift. Searching for those dots to Penance, searching for those executes, and returning back to my Schism. Always checking spells between combat. Looks like I have Mindbender and Rift. It's always good to kind of know what you have going into a pull, so you can kind of plan accordingly. Drop my Rapture. This is also a great pull for Fear. Noticing my Fear icon has a glow on it with a bar indicating a Fear spot. And there was mine. Good thing Shield Wall was up there. Let's see, I have Rift. Let's see if I play it here. Death. Rift Penance. I get a Rift plus 5 free Torments that way. So 1 death spawns a Mindbender without a Torment. A second death torments the first and spawns an extra. And then 2 casts that torment totals up to 5. It's a little confusing, but I had to test it on a target dummy. So we have the same mob here that AoEs the group. closely tracking that spell on his nameplate. I want to time my window with this attack. Work in a radiance midway of the rift. Also, if I were to critique the Zephyr there, it's a little bit late. You want that before the damage. And I'm kind of just thinking now, yeah, I'm probably going to play the rift here, play it early before the damage, just to help its cooldown.
Embracing
2 free deaths, 2 free mindbenders, and caught the collapse. And I've had a lot of questions about that. It is obviously not the way to min-max Entropic Rift if the collapse happens after mobs die. So / cancel aura, Entropic Rift will cancel it. It is a really fun way to min-max that talent. So let's see, we have the big guy, the AoEs again. I've held spells. Mindbender Death. Rift with Vampiric Embrace. Free Mindbenders, Death, Penance, getting 3 extra torments there at the closing end of my window. And I think I send my Rift here one more time when I arguably should have held, but I think I at least caught the collapse. Yeah, I caught the collapse, but I would have rather have it on opener here. Let's see, I set my focus early, .2, letting my penance spread the final 2. Drop my Rhapsody. My ramp there took quite a while, but let's see how I handle it. Searching for that execute, there it is. Spawned a free Mindbender and a free round of Torments for the win. We have some curses in party. Alright, this boss is a little bit tricky. I'm tracking the spawns of the ads on the nameplate, and I'm tracking the intermission phase with Bigwigs as a bar. So we really just want to play spells as they come. There's not really a set rotation like first boss. But we can go ahead and drop big spells early. So I go for Mindbender first, I believe. Yep, Mindbender Death, Rift, Penance. Hitting Radiance on the Paladin. He was in the middle of the party cluster there. Making sure you collect those Dark Orbs. Okay, and I believe on this one, let's see what I do here. Go into a Rapture. Here's our intermission. So I Death on the Affix first. 2 free Mindbenders, Rift, Penance. 3 extra Torments. Straight into my Rift. Making sure I cast my Shadow Word Death there. It does a lot of extra damage on shields. And we are reset for the next round. So Mindbender and Rift are up. Atonements are out. A dot is out. Wow. Yeah, I like gripping people into my barrier. It's kind of my signature, but it can control people sometimes. And I think that helped prevent a little damage. Here is my Mindbender window, a little bit delayed for coverage. Let's see, we're approaching the shell phase. I just have Rift. I believe that's all we need here. Rift Penance. Got 2 free Executes, 2 free Mindbenders. 2 Penance into my Rift, fully covered. Let's see, next round we are totally set. I have PI. Let's see if I play it. It's one of my biggest areas for improvement. I drop PI quite a bit. Mindbender Death, Rift Penance. And I'm just attacking the boss. That's where my Schism is, and letting the team handle the ads. Going into a Rapture since my other spells are on cooldown. Here we go. Just a Rift, but it is all we need, literally almost always. I just saw my PIQ. Let's see if I get it. Still have not played PI. I do believe I get it here. Yeah, it's really interesting when you watch yourself back. You can see a lot more in third person. Okay. I'm playing my deaths out of sequence there a little, and it's holding me back. So here we go. Mindbender, Rift, Death, Death, Penance. A little bit different of a sequence. And nothing wrong there, to be honest. A lot of times you kind of just have to modify on the fly and just play what you have. There's our PI, right on cue with the Paladin. Death, Death, Rift, Penance. Getting those free Torments, free Mindbenders. There's another free Mindbender. And that was pretty well played. So it's kind of just a Hail Mary there. You play what you have. You have those moments of downtime after a phase. If you don't have your Mindbender back, I'd favor CDR. But it's really all about tracking when those ads spawn, making sure you have heals rolling, making sure you play a Radiance in your Rift, and making sure you're playing Radiance on the best person. You have to play it on the person most centralized in your party cluster, or you're going to miss people, and that's how you'll have deaths. 2 extra executes, Death, Death, Penance, getting some extra torments. And so what I'm thinking now is I have 15 seconds on Mindbender. I really want to get him back before the next pull. I have Pain Set, Barrier, Rapture. Let's see what I do. Opening with dots, selecting my focus target. The darkest red is the biggest guy. Atonements are out. Drop my Rhapsody. Mindbender, Death. Rift, Penance. Now we're kind of set. Work any Radiance. Pop an extra Death. Extra Torments. 2 Penance into my Rift. Is all we needed. So my ally got hit there right as my Mindbender window was ending. Really good time to reach for Rapture, which is what I did. Here goes my second Rift for the pull. And this is a really nice play of Rapture. So notice how I'm staggering shields on the Paladin in between every tick of incoming damage of that dot. It is a really nice way to mitigate damage. And on this pull, it is a pretty big pull. It's really good for our Divine Star, really good for our Rhapsody, really good for Fear. Noticing the system I have in place, there's a blue bar that pops up underneath my Fear icon that correlates to a blue cast bar on a nameplate. That is a Fear opportunity for us. The Fear icon will glow, and all of that only happens if the Fear is available. So here goes our Rift. Mid Radiance, getting 2 Penance. Now at the end, at the end of my Mindbender window when I'm spent, I worked in my Radiance, got my Dark Divine Star, got my Rhapsody, Grip in the Shaman, my signature move into the barrier, although I don't think he needed it. Here's my second Rift per 1 Mindbender, getting as much damage as I can, and that was a pretty good pull. But notice how I'm using my UI to help me min-max my Fear. It is a really important spell that we try and maximize as a priest. So Bigwigs has important casts for us to Fear with a trumpet sound. With KUI, I have those cast bars Aqua. Below my Fear icon is an Aqua bar. And then also my Fear icon will glow when one of these opportunities arises. And all of that only happens if Fear is available. And these pulls are really good opportunities for extra executes, really good opportunities for Fear. Let's see, my Fear is back available. Let's see if I get one in here. There it was. So I'm paying really close attention to that area of my screen where I have the fixed blue bar right underneath my fear icon. And yeah, the idea there is if a bar gets too close to casting, that's when I jump in with my fear. Okay, so my sequence is a little bit off here, but I'm still just going to go for it. Yeah, and that's an instance where sometimes you just got to play your spells as they come. Since we have 2 main spells now, so I didn't have any deaths, but I had Mindbender Rift. So I did Mindbender Rift Penance and then played the death when it came up. It's not a fully optimized rotation, but if I waited any longer, I would have just had a full miss of damage. So let's see if I get executes here. Atonements, dots, drop Rhapsody, Mindbender. Missed on those, too late. So you really have to be quick there with a Mindbender or you're going to miss out on your execute opportunities. Working a Radiance after I get my 3 blasts for extension. And this pull is pretty hefty, so I think I opt to hold the Rift and just spend a moment here farming back my Mindbender. Let's see. I think I just smite spam for a second. Mindbender's almost there. Mindbender's almost there. Atonements are good. A fresh dot. Here we go. Mindbender Death. Rift Penance. Drop my star. Here comes some executes on the affix. 3 torments, 3 mindbenders, 2 dark reprimands while the rift was out. Huge stand, over 500,000 per second. Okay, and on this boss, there's really only 1 timer we have to track, and I have that 1 isolated with bigwigs. I have my sounds isolated to the frontal. And on the open here, we have 30 seconds till any damage. This is a great time just to go for a damage grab. So here goes the Mindbender, just pumping as much damage as I can. Also keep in mind, we have tank busters in this fight. With my targeted cast weak aura, our tank, there it is, will glow white when he's about to get hit. And this is also a fight that cycles. So the first box does no damage unless you're hit. And the second box does group-wide damage, which is great for Rapture, Barrier, etc. So here comes the first exhaust vents. I just went for a Rift, no Mindbender, it wasn't quite ready yet. Rift is all we need. Worked in a Radiance and we're fully covered. Full health. Here comes the group AoE. Shield myself, a Barrier for the group. Pre-cast a Radiance and we're all covered. Making sure I'm attacking the healthiest mob here. Here comes our second exhaust vents. Full atonements in group. I have both my spells. Mindbender Death. Rift Penance. And this is with Vampiric Embrace. Working a Radiance midway just for the coverage. And we are all fully covered through the collapse. And here comes our third exhaust vents. All I'm going to have is Rift. So here goes the Rift. Pre-damage. Always kind of want to get ahead of it. Getting my 3 blasts for extension, then my Radiance. Some free executes. Raptured this one. The best defense on an attack like that is having full health and party. So casting something like Rift going into that attack puts everyone at full health, and then I covered additionally with a Rapture. And there I also missed my collapse, but not the biggest deal because the boss is down. That's the biggest... That's the most important thing there. But again, / cancel aura, 1 word, entropic rift, 2 words, is a really nice macro to cancel that attack, making sure you're not missing those collapses. They are huge. And just food for thought while we're walking here. So my cast rift, I hold shift and roll forward on my mouse. To cancel my rift, I hold shift alt and roll backwards on my mouse. So it's kind of like the same idea, same keybind. And that's my philosophy with keybinding, is you want them to be intuitive and want them to be like not randomized. You want, you know, some some thought that goes into your keybinds to make them easy on you. Okay, with this pull, we really want to prevent these mobs from traveling too much, so aiming them into the wall is the right play. Attacking the biggest mob here with my Mindbender and Rift. Gave ourselves a Radiance midway. The Rift was already out. I had some free executes. Fully recovered the health from that attack. So here comes my second Rift for the pull. One Mindbender, 2 Rifts. Here comes some executes. Let's see if I snag them. Yep. Execute, execute. Back to my penance. I'm sorry, back to my schism. I did not have any coverage in group for that hit, but we were full health. There goes Mindbender, Rift. Worked in an early Radiance just because we needed it. Grab some extra executes. And that time I kept my penance on the mob without my schism, because the mob with the schism was kind of off by his own, and the torments wouldn't have hit anyone else. So torment is an AoE attack that can hit up to 5 people. I sacrificed the torment on the penance. Whoa. I sacrificed the torment on the schism just because he was isolated. It's something to think about for sure. Making sure your torments are going to clusters of enemies. And we're totally reset for next pull. I got a free Mindbender there. And on this pull, I kind of leave it up to the team. I do have the totem stand out as a different color. There's PI the Paladin. This was a really aggressive pull where I did not reatone anyone, but I did just use my Fear Bomb there. And all I'm thinking right now is get my Mindbender back, farming CDR at the tail end of this pull. And as a priest, we don't have the best interrupts in the world, although they were buffed. Something that is really good for young priests to think about is min-maxing our fear. Using my system, I think, is a really good way to do it. It's a better spell than it used to be, and being that it's a weakness of ours, it's very important that we have a system in order to attempt to maximize it. And between bigwigs, between my weak Rs that glow my icon, that's my system. Okay, so all I'm thinking right now is CDR, pre-radiance into a rift. Yeah, that must have just been for the proc. The radiance after the attack. I'm fully covered. Rinse and repeat here. I'm on the darkest red enemy. We have his AoE attack on his nameplate. There goes my Rhapsody. Full Atonement, some party. Mindbender, Death. Rift, Penance. Put my Radiance after the Rift. It looks like on that one I missed my second Penance. Not the biggest loss, but yeah, you definitely want 2 Penance while your Rift is out. Every bit of Penance damage you deal empowers your Rift. And with the extended Rift, you want 2. Divine Starwell is getting punted. The reason I take Divine Star is because it's instant. It's kind of nice in spots like that where you just want one extra thing to cast while you're moving. Okay, so we have this boss. So healers prio first IMO, so I'm standing near it. And we have the Void Corruption here. This is where we want to time our heals. I'm sorry, the Entropic Reckoning is where we want to time our heals. I could actually probably turn that bar off. Okay, so I have heals, flooding, and party. Not the best rotation. Let's see if I can improve it. Okay, so I just have Rift on this time around. Trying to consolidate those things. Ground in. See, I also have Peon. Yeah, I think we have good fun here saving each other. So the Evoker just saved me there. This round is Raptured.
Embrace who you are.
Let's see, Paladin is coming back up available for a PI round. Let's see if I catch it this time. My turn to save him. Still on PI. Yeah, I've already said it. It's one of my areas for improvement. Usually I cast PI on my friend who's kind of helping me make sure I play it in Discord. But with this fight, there's really not too much to it. I would say with bigwigs, you'd be totally fine just tracking one spell. It's not the best one either to use. Yeah, I need to work on this fight, I'll admit. But it's the Entropic Reckoning. The red bar right now is really the only place you need to place your spells.
Embrace who you truly are.
So at least I got PI out. Let's see, the Rift is out. Let me get in a Radiance before we split up, is the idea. Yep. Oh man. So we were all atoned for that one, but the Rift had already collapsed. All good. Cleans up myself just because we got him. Mindbender, Death, Death, Rift Penance. Pretty unique rotation. You get sub 20 on bosses. Radiance for the coverage. Lust for the win. Save the Evoker one last time just for the Gram, and that was a 10 Stonevault. So I've had a lot of fun pushing into all 10s. I'm to the point now where I'm getting into 11s. It's quite a weird scaling, I would say, and I wish it wasn't so condensed because like not many people are even timing 12. So you know what's the goal right now? Just to get all 11s and give up? I don't know, but 10s and 11s. What I'm noticing are quite out of reach for a lot of pugs. So I would really encourage people who are wanting to push high just to find at least 1 or 2 people to play with. 1 or 2 people really does a lot for improving your odds at winning a key. But this was a pretty good key overall. I think last boss, if I were to critique myself, I need more work on it. But all the other bosses, I think I pretty much pwned them and then gave some really good examples of how to min-max them as Disc Priest. Using our rotation back and forth between Rift and Mindbender. We're really trying to get 2 more Rifts than the Mindbender, keeping our PI rolling, saying that to myself, making sure we're playing our Fear, using my system or your own system in order to maximize it, making sure we're playing our personal defensives, and yeah. So if anyone has any questions, please chime off down below. If you are interested in private lessons, check me out on Medify. Please consider joining the channel as a member if you want some of my UI elements. And if you learned anything from this channel, please also consider throwing it a super thanks. That is a tip straight through YouTube, and the channel would really appreciate it. So sorry I didn't make a video last week, but I might make 2 videos this weekend. But yeah, with all that being said, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, Disc.